Isn't there a false dilemma that's causing potentially harm in this?
Well, there are many dangers, and they've been known for a long time. One of the main dangers is that the mask, which you're breathing through, is a humid, environment for all kinds of pathogens, bacterial especially.
I'm going to hand this over. You can see there's a lot of makeup on here. Probably not a great idea when I'm handing this over to see how much fungus and bacteria is on here. He swabbed the surface of the face mask I wore all weekend and then spread it around a couple of Petri dishes.
Then within probably about 24 hours, 48 hours after this, we'll look at the growth on these plates. It's very common that we'll eat and put our mask back on. If we're sweating a little bit, we're creating a really nice soup for these kind of microorganisms.
So I'm back here 3 days later to see the results. How dirty was my mask? Give me the truth.
Okay, so I think you can see from here, there's plenty of stuff growing.
Video from under a microscope shows a range of microorganisms, including a variety of different bacteria, yeast, and plenty of fungus.
And you're touching it all the time, and God knows how you're storing it and whether or not you're cleaning it. Are you using a new one each time?
So I've got one right here in my pocket, actually. This is a homemade mask.
So there are many dangers, many known potential dangers that have been a concern to medicine for a long time, which is why, responsible health officials have never recommended that masks be used in the general public. Never. And in fact, they made a point of not doing so and explaining why they weren't doing so. So this is a complete reversal done for political reasons, in my view.
The debate is deeply political. Newsnight understands that the World Health Organization committee that reviewed the evidence for the use of face coverings in public didn't back them. But after political lobbying, the WHO now recommends them.
Doctors aren't mask experts. They bring in what? An OSHA professional. Occupational Safety Health Administration. Government agency that focuses on air quality and what you need to do when wearing a mask, how to wear a mask. How about one of those experts? Or how about two?
OSHA professionals, PPE experts like Kristen and myself specialize in PPE and respirators.
As professionals, when this all started, when you started seeing them, and first it was locking down, right? It was social distancing, and then this mask thing seemed to come out of nowhere. And when you started seeing on the news, we want everybody in the country wearing masks, what was your first thought?
I went, whoa, 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 we don't just mask up.
Right.
It is incredibly dangerous and unsafe and unhealthy.
And not only do these ear loop masks and cloth masks not work, they're increasing the spread through fomite transmission, which is a form of cross-contamination. You're touching your face.
Often people are fiddling with their masks. They then have an opportunity to get the virus, whatever it might be, on their fingers and spread it in other ways.
During surgery, if a surgeon or a nurse or an anesthesiologist is wearing an N95 or even a surgical mask or an ear loop mask in that surgical suite, if they touch that mask one time, they have to either exit the room or a nurse aide has to help them change it out without touching it. The second you touch your mask, not only are you cross-contaminating that mask, but you are reducing its likelihood to control a hazard. No one is trained on when you're supposed to change these out. No one is trained that when they're soiled or you're working in a humid environment.
The maximum amount of time that you can wear a surgical mask in a hospital setting or a surgical center is 2 hours. That's max.
These things increase the spread. You re-inhale your exhausted gaseous waste, and you can increase your viral load. So if you are ill, not only can you continue to spread it, but you will be sicker longer.
We know we have all the studies, like Kristen said, that shows oxygen levels are reduced by up to 20% by putting on a mask, by covering the mouth and nose for a prolonged period and breathing. It doesn't take very long. Like you with your test with your son, the CO2 levels went up quickly. O2 levels dropped very quickly as well. So now to just tell everybody to mask up and it's not a danger is not only unethical, but it's illegal. So it's not legal in the workplace to allow an employee to work in a mask or face covering without first doing a medical evaluation to make sure that that employee can medically tolerate it, because we know it's very taxing to the cardiopulmonary system when you cover somebody's mouth and nose and then you force them to do their work. Even if they're not working and they're just sitting, it's going to tax their cardiopulmonary system because it changes the way you breathe. You have to forcibly inhale, forcibly exhale, and so it taxes the cardiopulmonary system. We've given people heart attacks by forcing them to do this, and that's why OSHA created the respirator standard in the first place.
Well, as soon as you go to masks, you got to start following respiratory protection standard, which has all sorts of requirements. You can't just hand somebody an N95 and not incur a lot of liability if you don't ensure that they're fit tested, that they're medically cleared to wear it, that they've been trained on how to wear it, and they've been trained on how to replace it.
It's quite dangerous a study published in ClinMed. It was called Adverse Effects of Prolonged Mask Use Among Healthcare Professionals During COVID-19. They found that 71% of people reported headaches from wearing masks, skin breakdown, 50% of people, and impaired cognition. And now, a quarter of people wearing masks suffered impaired cognition. And wow, increased harmful bacteria in the respiratory tract and around the face. Increased carbon dioxide content in our lungs, which leads to lower oxygenation of our blood and brain and leads to hyperventilation.
Another big danger with regards to adopting masks like this is that it's habituating people to agree with a government directive that is not based in science.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a hair tie on each end.
That is illogical. That is contrary to the usual evidence-based approach that we're supposed to have in our society. When we're a responsible government, it's supposed to be evidence-based.
So mine looks like a Christmas cracker.
You're supposed to eliminate and demonstrate that there are no residual dangers involved.
And then you have a face covering.
Awesome.
I've also had a lovely one sent by a member of the public, which has got the TARDIS on it, which is nice.
From a psychological point of view, masks are a very potent maintainer of fear. And we know fear has been artificially elevated throughout the pandemic, and masks are now acting to keep that fear level going.
When you look around and you detect other people are wearing masks, what was that? What does your hindbrain, your lizard brain tell you? Hazard, risk, threat, frightening. So basically, it amps up people's fear. I think that's been the main reason. It's to make people frightened.
And there's only a couple of countries that have ever really done large-scale studies to try and figure out what might work. Japan, it may not surprise you, is one of them. And they, in one of their large studies, they basically showed that the masks, it seemed like the major efficacy of a mask is that it causes alarm in the other person. And it is alarming when you walk down a street and everybody coming towards you has a mask on. You definitely do social distancing. You definitely, it's just a gut thing. But did the mask really help them? Did the mask keep the virus out? Almost certainly not.
They're fear perpetuators because it screams at us that one of us is a biohazard. Maybe both of us are a biohazard. It maintains fear. It easily allows people to be identified so that people can tell who's following the rules and who isn't. So it kind of harnesses peer pressure and scapegoating.
Get away from me now! No mask! Get out!
Put your mask on.
Get away from me,
Put it on. Does it bother anybody else that she doesn't have to wear a mask that we all do?
Just go away. Stay 6 feet away from me then.
No.
Fuera de aquí. Fuera de aquí. Fuera. Fuera. Fuera.
And of course, masks convey that hysteria on the street. If you're not wearing one, you're made to think like you're a leper. You know, children can't see anyone's expressions and smiles.
And then there are the children. An Ofsted report says face masks and lockdowns have left a generation of our youngest children struggling to crawl, walk, talk, dress themselves, make friends, even to go to the toilet unaided. Children that are 2 years old now spent their whole lives in a masked-up world. Babies born and raised in masked worlds are, quote, struggling to respond to facial expressions, particularly anxious and not used to seeing different faces. Stories, singing, playing, talking, seeing faces. After being fed and held in loving arms, these are among the most fundamental necessities of childhood.
Tell us a little bit about what you've seen in your psychiatric practice there in LA with children and masks.
Well, I treat children all day long, and I can tell you unequivocally, it's been a complete, total disaster. I had a child last week who came into my practice about 8 years old with his mother. They were both wearing masks. I told the mother and the child, it's okay. You can take the masks off. It's safe. The mother, to her credit, did. The boy left it on. I asked him, why aren't you taking your mask off? He looked up at me and he said, Doctor, there's Delta variants everywhere. If I take my mask off, I might die.
Wow.
And then he paused and he looked at his mother and he turned back to me and he said, and I might kill my mother.
Wow.
The most important thing is, does it have a cost? I mean, I don't mind people engaging in their own games of mask wearing and tracking and testing if it has no cost. But the mask wearing really has had a negative impact in all kinds of ways. And in terms of masking children, it seems absolutely obvious that that is psychologically deeply damaging.
The knock-on consequences of masks go way beyond the inconvenience of it all.
So I think, on net, I think the masks not only have not been effective, but have been harmful. And the mandates themselves have created social division in ways that are just really to be regretted. I mean, public health is supposed to create some sorts of unity, not the kinds of division and moralization of behavior that it has created.
Applying masks on the large scale on the entire healthy population has all kinds of potential problems with it.